Hello, 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 hello again. Welcome back to my house, to one of my regular talks. I've tremendously been enjoying this. In the best case, you're not getting rid of me quite yet. Today, I was planning to do a lighter talk, something from this century maybe. So I was thinking about getting one of my 1920s objects out of my collection. This object is made by an artist you all know. It's the world famous Emanuel Radinsky. And Manuel Radinsky, of course, is mostly known under his pen name Man Ray, an American artist who in the 1920s and 30s would be instrumental in the development of early surrealism, though we all know him from the posters that every 16-year-old has hanging of, Kiki de Montparnasse and etc. So he's more famous as a photographer than as a tremendously important artist. It was a really interesting period, the early 1920s. As you know, Berlin was booming, Paris was booming, the whole of Europe was at turmoil, and they had a reason, because the First World War was over. The whole generation was wiped out because of the First World War. And to add insult to injury, just after the First World War, one of the greatest epidemics ever took place, not even remotely comparable to the corona now. It is the Spanish flu that in 2 years wiped out more people than the First World War just a few years before. So these were 4 years of tremendous suffering. And after those years, you want to forget. You want to do something completely different than the hardship and the day-to-day life that would take place during the Spanish flu and the First World War. So this is what all these guys are about. They flock to Paris, they flock to Berlin, and they lead extravagant lives in bars, restaurants, and nightclubs. Man Ray as well. He moved to Paris from America, and he was introduced in the circle of artists and bohemians, let's say, by Marcel Duchamp, one of the famous later surrealist artists, and a guy that totally upset modern art for a reason or not for a reason. That's something we will discuss later. But Man Ray was hanging out with the crop of the cream of the avant-garde. One of these guys he was befriended with was Erik Satie. Erik Satie, the famous composer, was much older than Man Ray, by the way, and was truly a professional alcoholic. Now, if you go to Paris, you pay €6 for a coffee at La Pen, at le Café Flore, etc. The famous bars and Bowfingers, etc. But these places then were run down, were like, where the working class went and drink and eat. And that's exactly what these guys did. And often, especially after the period of the Spanish flu and, the First World War behind you, this is time to drink a lot and to just toy around with each other and make art, make music, make poetry, make puns. They loved word jokes, and also make a kind of destructive art that they all loved to destroy the old world order. Well, the object I will talk about is this one. Well, it's of course not the original again, but it's a later reproduction by Man Ray. It's an object called Cadeau. In this case, a rather useless Cadeau, because it's an iron that is fitted with 40 nails here that Man Ray glued on it. The story is, by the way, quite funny. Man Ray and Erik Satie went to a bar and went totally drunk. Man Ray had to open his exhibition the day afterwards, and you know how it works when you drink too much, you don't make it on time. So he was in dire need of more and more works. So on the way back, when they were extremely drunk and pissed, they passed a shop where they sold iron appliances like, metal works, etc. And Man Ray goes inside. And with the help of Erik Satie, because Man Ray didn't speak a single word of French, he purchased an iron and some nails. And right at the spot, just out of his drunk head, he attached 14 of these nails on an iron board, on an iron, planning to exhibit it. As you see, it is signed by Man Ray and numbered, but in a much larger edition than the original, of course. He wanted to exhibit it at the exhibition the day afterwards and then give it as a totally useless present to his friends at the exhibition. Truth is, the exhibition was a complete disaster. There were riots. It was one of these typical 1920s happenings, and the original object was stolen to never be discovered again. So if you have one of these upstairs, please call me. Well, so Man Ray produced numerous ones of those later in his life, because he thought that it's about the idea, it's about the fun you have with art, and not about the object itself. He saw art as a musical score, like he said he made music. He was really interested in music. Like a musical score, one could reproduce. I think this is a really important thing to take into account now. Don't set your expectations too high. Don't try to make masterpieces and having that as a kind of barricade before you produce something. Just pick up your pens, just pick up your brushes, just pick up, like Man Ray, everything that is around you, even an iron board or nails, and create what you want to make. Because later on, it will turn out in one of the masterpieces of surreal art, by the way, to the big chagrin of Man Ray. I hope you liked this little talk. In a few days, I'm going back to my roots, these 17th century masters. And I'm quite looking forward to that again, to tell you a bit more about some Rembrandt works and some stuff that is also here in this very room. I hope you have a nice week. Stay alive, and ciao ciao.